got a chance to do one thing that every team in the country can't do. We got a chance to step up, man. We got a chance to step on the ledge, you know what I mean? And to me, I think it's a free fall. To be elite, you got to take a free fall. That means you can't be afraid to go to the edge. And coach said, jump. You said, how far, coach? Where you want me to go? Every guy got a chance to do that today. If you're elite, grab somebody today. Take him with you. There's no more average in this program. There's no more average in this program.
Well, it is time for the Heisman Trophy conversation to start around here. I have put together a top 10 list, and you're just going to see the whole list. I'm going to throw it right at you. And this top 10 list is going to have the Heisman Trophy predictions that I have up there. And I got a couple of surprises, but ultimately, guys, I don't think it's going to be too controversial what I'm going to say and what I'm going to talk about. Now, I'm going to give you guys this little caveat here. I will be saying stuff about how I'm going to essentially award the best college football players, and I'll make a list just like this Heisman list at the end of the year on who I think the Heisman Trophy winner is going to be and who I think the best college football players are. Because I think those are two different things, right? You talk about the most outstanding college football player, but at the end of the day, the most outstanding college football player most of the time is a quarterback in my life, when in all reality, that doesn't end up being the case whatsoever. That doesn't end up being the most impactful player on a football team. I'll give you a good recent example. To me, when you look back at last season, the most outstanding player on Michigan's roster, it wasn't a quarterback, wasn't a running back, it was a cornerback, who's back, by the way, Will Johnson. But he is not going to put up the stats. He's not going to put up the accolades necessary to win the Heisman Trophy. That stuff is going to be factored in. So whether it's a top 10 list, a top 20 list, we'll discuss that later. It's not going to be – I want it to be very hard to get on that list. So it's going to be no more than 25 players. But we'll figure that out when we get there. Until then, these are my Heisman predictions for the 2024 season. Start at the bottom, number 10, Avery Johnson. I think a lot of people don't realize how big of a year Avery Johnson is about to have. He's got a good receiving core, a couple of really good running backs. This kid can really throw the ball, and he can move. He can move like no other. I think he's going to have an amazing season, and he's specifically going to get hot at the end of the year and kind of have a kind of Max Duggan-like rise at the end of the year, comparing him to another Big 12 quarterback. I think that that's what you're going to see out of Avery Johnson. Number 9, a lot of you guys might be surprised by this. I'm going to put a defensive player in my top 10, and personally, the one I feel like is most likely to wreak enough havoc to win the Heisman. It depends on what Ohio State does with Caleb Downs. I'll put that caveat out there. If they actually have him returning kicks and playing a little bit of offense like they talked about, which seems like it's a dying down subject, so probably not going to happen, then I could see him being there. But at the end of the day, Patrick Payton is an edge rusher who gets after the quarterback, but also he gets his hands on the ball, bats the ball down. What if he turns a couple of those into interceptions? What if he has multiple games like the JT Tuimoloau Penn State game of a couple years ago? If there are 3 defensive players I think has the best chance to win the Heisman Trophy, Patrick Payton's up there. I mentioned Caleb Downs. But the third one, and I think a lot of people don't understand how impactful this player can be, Trey Moore over at Texas. I mean, he was one of the leaders in sacks. He's a freak. Everybody's talking about him. He's going to be surrounded by great talent on that defense. Watch out for him. Number 8, Nico Iamaleava. Just like Avery Johnson, I expect for him to have a breakout season, and he's going to have an offense that's going to be centered around him. I think that Dylan Sampson's going to take a little bit of his shine away, and I think that'll fade away from it. And then also, with the record prediction that I have, if you go back to the SEC prediction, you could see that. But with the record prediction I have, I don't think Nico is going to be impactful enough to be able to win the Heisman, similar to Jackson Dart at number 7. Jackson Dart, to me, has the weapons. He's going to have the offense more, honestly, centralized around him than Nico Iamaleava. But the fact of the matter is, too, that a lot of people will discredit Jackson Dart. Number 1, because, again, the record I have him finishing with isn't the elite of the elite, though they're going to be really good. But the number two thing is a lot of people will indeed give credit to that amazing trio that he has at wide receiver and the great tight end Caden Prescorn. When you are throwing the ball to Jordan Watkins out of the slot, Trey Harris on the outside, and Juice Wells on the other, a lot of people are going to criticize you. That's why Jackson Dart's at number 7. Number 6, Quinshon Judkins. I am high on Travion Henderson as far as up-in talent goes. But generally speaking, I do expect for Quinshon to get more of the carries. I do expect for Quinshon to be the better running back based on the fact that he can stay on track, though. I really like what I'm seeing about Travion Henderson being a captain. There are a lot of guys on Ohio State's roster that could potentially be in that Heisman conversation at the end of the year. They have one of the better defensive players for that conversation in Caleb Downs. They have 2 running backs. If one of them are the major back that breaks out and has about 1,500 yards, they're going to be in that conversation, whether it's Judkins or Henderson. My bet is on Judkins. And then they got a quarterback who he's going to add about 10 to 15 touchdowns on the ground, plus whatever he's going to be able to throw through the air. If he's able to take care of the football, you could easily see Will Howard in this conversation as well. Ohio State, I put one player in here. They have several players that could potentially be in here at the end. Number 5, Dillon Gabriel, the Heisman favorite, Heisman frontrunner. I kind of wanted to fade away from him, but for the simple reason of this, I do believe that he's going to statistically have an amazing season. There are some things about Dillon Gabriel, though, that I think people need to, dock points, take away from. I think he's getting a little bit overrated, a little overhyped. I think people forget what Dillon Gabriel really is, a very good, very solid college quarterback. He's not going to translate to the next level, in my opinion. But I also do believe that Dillon Gabriel is not a consistent enough quarterback. In my time watching Dillon Gabriel in the biggest games of his life, the only one he showed up for was the Texas game. The way that he looked in games like against Kansas last year, it gives me major hesitancy to put him up there. But I'm going to say this, my top 5 Heisman finalists, I am predicting Dillon Gabriel to be a Heisman finalist because I think he's going to put up insane numbers. But I do not necessarily think that he's going to be able to win the Heisman based on who he has been in the past. He's going to have to more so break that mold than even Bo Nix did, because Bo Nix still had time to completely change and wise up a little bit. Decision-making isn't necessarily Dillon Gabriel's problem. Number 4, Cam Rising. I hope and pray that this man can stay healthy because he's really exciting when he gets out there. I think he's going to be a Utah quarterback that's going to throw for 30 to 35 yards, and hopefully he is fully healed enough after taking a full season off that he's still going to have that mobility and be able to add about 10 on the ground, which is why I do believe that he's going to be right in this conversation at the end of the year for the Heisman Trophy. I'm going to put Cam Rising up there. Number 3, Luther Burden, to me, the best non-quarterback in college football, especially for a team that's going to be a playoff contender, Luther Burden. And mainly because I think he's going to put up insane stats. I'm talking 1,700 yards and 20 touchdowns. They do have other weapons over there at Missouri, but they might have to score a lot of points if that defense is not up to par. And they're also going to lean on Luther Burden a whole lot more. I'm going to take a gamble, a roll of the dice, and say Luther Burden is going to be a Heisman finalist. I really like this guy that much. If there is a non-quarterback to do it, I think Luther Burden is the non-quarterback to win the Heisman this year. Number 2, Carson Beck. He's going to put up really good numbers, but at the end of the day, what's going to keep him from the Heisman Trophy is the fact that that offense is going to spread it out so much, and it's going to spread it out too using the ground game. They got a lot of running backs, not just Trevor Etienne. They got a lot of running backs. They're going to run the ball a lot. They're going to score a lot of touchdowns on the ground, and Carson Beck is probably only going to have 25 to 30 touchdowns, which is going to be a knock on him, despite the fact that he's likely going to throw for over 4,000 yards, spreading the wealth to all of these receivers, 6, 7, 8 receivers, getting decent stats, not having a 1,000-yard receiver again. Georgia's totally fine with that blueprint. But the number 1 player, especially after C.J. Baxter gets hurt, they're going to lean on him a little bit more. The pressure is on for Quinn Ewers, and I think he's going to answer the bell. The way that he has matured since a 17-year-old who early enrolled into Ohio State, it's been amazing to see him grow up. And now he's going to be the most mature version of himself. We saw him at the end of last year absolutely take over games, looking dominant against Oklahoma State, looked pretty good against Washington. I think that Quinn Ewers is the best version of himself this year. And kind of like Cam Rising, though it's less significant, I just hope that he can stay healthy. Quinn Ewers is my pick to win the Heisman Trophy this year, leading Texas through the regular season with an astonishing amount of success with him statistically. I expect for him to throw for over 40 touchdowns. He's going to spread that wealth around as they got about 5 or 6 solid receivers to get the ball to. You're going to see an impact of Jonte Cook. You're going to see an impact from the freshman with Ryan Wingo. You're going to see these transfers, Matthew Golden, Silas Bolden, and Isaiah Bond make an impact for this Texas offense. And I think that Quinn Ewers is going to be the beneficiary and win the Heisman Trophy. But with that being said, let me know down in the comment section below who you think is going to win the Heisman, who a sleeper, even potentially with 5-digit odds, 10,000 plus 10,000 or worse off odds. Let me know if you got a sleeper pick for the Heisman Trophy. But with that being said, next video we have up, guys, the college football playoff is here. But before that, we're going to get you the win-loss locks of the year. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'll see you guys in the next video. Have yourselves a good rest of your day.